What's up, everyone? It's Colin here on day 26 of my 30-day rejection challenge. So yesterday I talked to 7 more people, and every day starts out a little different. So when I first started doing this, I couldn't believe that I was going to go talk to, more than one person in a day, let alone 5. And now I still get these weird feelings of I can't believe I'm doing this. I feel so not myself. I feel crazy sometimes. And yesterday was one of those days. So I started out and I was at the hardware store. And I was buying a master lock, and then, the girl at the counter, she was actually pretty cute, and I usually don't talk to people while they're at work, but I couldn't help it, and so I started, initiating the thing, and, going through the whatever, and I was like, oh, what's your name? I thought you're kind of cute, I just want to introduce myself, and she's like, oh yeah, I remember you. She's like, I know you. She's like, yeah, you said the same thing to me on the street the other day. And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh no, the town has shrunk. I've talked to every girl that I'm attracted to. I ran out of them. There's no more to talk to. And so this was a big fear of mine. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to the same person twice. And she was like, she said, yeah, you came up to me on the street, and I was trying to remember her, and then I did remember her. She told me what street it was, and then I was like, oh, well, what'd you say? And she's like, oh, well, I said that I had a boyfriend, and I was like, oh, nice. So you still have a boyfriend? And she's like, yeah, I do, totally. And so I was like, all right, well, and she's like, all right, well, take care. And I realized in that moment that really wasn't that bad. I was so afraid of it, and it was so crazy that she had called me out and been like, yes, you've already done this to me. And so I was like, oh no, she's gonna know that I am attracted to girls and I say hi to them when I'm attracted to them. And it's like, who cares? I don't know, it was just she wasn't weirded out by it. I was kind of weirded out by it at first, but then as we parted ways, it was no big deal. So that was interesting. And then, so the second person I talked to, she, gave me this look of the death glare and this look of disdain, and wasn't interacting with me hardly at all. And I still went through the motions and was like, great, I'd love to get your number, or whatever I said. And then she's like, oh, I have a boyfriend. And then I was like, okay, well, have a good day. And then she's like, yeah, and hey, thanks for the compliment. And it was in that moment that I also realized that there's a lot of stuff that I'm making up in my head depending on how they react. I'm very sensitive to how the person's reacting. So if they're not engaging me, I'm like, oh, it's not going well. But in fact, she let me know that it was still a compliment, and I wasn't totally ruining her day by saying that. So that was a great little lesson as well. And then, so later, I am walking down the street, and this girl in this striking red dress is walking down the street past me, and I was like, oh God, I know I have to talk to this girl. And then so she walks past me, and then I turn around, and then I kind of no, man, I don't have a light. I don't have a light. Sig or something, I don't know. Anyway, so she's walking past me, and then so I turn around and I kind of run up to her, and I was like, hey, excuse me. And she turns around and she laughs. She's like, "Duh," and then she's like, or I don't know what she does, something like she just kind of laughs at me, and then she takes her sunglasses off, and then I look at her and I take my sunglasses off, and I kind of, we were looking at each other. I was like, what? She's like, nothing. And I was like, what? And then she's like, you're gonna ask me out, aren't you? And then I stopped for this moment, and this moment I stopped for a split second, and I kind of I stood up straight and tall, and then I just said, yep, and she's like, I got a guy, see you later. And so that was great, because that was so much different than the way I would have been before. If I would have stopped and she said, you're gonna ask me out, aren't you? I would have made up some weird excuse and fumbled and took off. But I could just own it right there and just be like, yep, I'm coming to ask you out, girl in the red dress, who's laughing at me for doing that. So that was great. I'm also really getting trained. So by doing this, I'm noticing that I'm really getting trained in conquering hesitation. And because hesitation is one of those things that has, in this scenario, has totally killed anything that, for example, if I hesitate, then I get in my head about, if she looks like she might have a boyfriend, or she doesn't want to be talked to. And then a lot of times the opportunity is gone. Or once I go up and talk to her, I'm that much more in my head. But if I just kind of do it on instinct, like as soon as I see an attractive girl and go run up to her, then it's much more flowing and it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. So the lesson, that I have for you is that any time that you want to do this, just do it without hesitation. That has just been a huge lesson for me in all this. So, and lastly, again, I have to emphasize the practice, because by the 7th person I talked to yesterday, I was so calm. I just noticed how so calm and collected I was. I just went up to her and, she was just kind of sitting there outside of a store, and I just started talking to her. It wasn't like there was no sort of, anxiety, and I just started talking to her, and she just had, she was from out of town and just basically said no. I don't even remember if she had a boyfriend or not, but it was just like no, but we still had fun, and there was just like, I was so like relaxed and calm, and it just has to do with like kind of practicing this throughout the day, like getting warmed up socially every day. So anyway, that's all I got for you, and I'll keep you posted and talk to you soon.